Kaiser in Blue Lock is undoubtedly Isagi's most recent and most powerful rival to date, and when you see a teenager being able to dominate the top 5 leagues in Europe, you have to wonder what makes him this good. And in this video, I plan to go over what makes Kaiser so good and why he's kind of a perfect striker in a way. But before we begin, I'd like to say, of course, that if you enjoy this type of videos, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel since I make Blue Lock content quite often. And consider joining my membership to get early access to videos, as well as to join the members only Discord server. To go over Kaiser, we first have to go over the first display of his power that we actually saw. And this is all the way back in chapter 157 in the Germany training stratum, where Kaiser ranks number 1 in the physical test, even when you have someone like post wildcard training Kunigami going against him. We also see in his training that he's easily able to take on Raichi and Isagi at the same time, and Isagi feels like he has to go over to Noah just to get an idea of how to beat Kaiser. 10 days after this, the Spain vs Barca match kicks off, and we get to see Kaiser's skill in an actual game. And since Kaiser is seen as the heart and the best player in the Germany team, he of course begins with the ball on kickoff. But after Bachar gets a goal, making the score 0-1, Ness asks Kaiser what's the plan, and Kaiser simply responds, execution. Him and Ness begin coordinating with each other, and because Ness's ankles are so flexible, he's able to get through the defense pretty easily. And of course, Kaiser, being one of the new Gen 11, is able to move up the field in the perfect position. And while Isagi is watching Kaiser, he says it's almost like Kaiser is embodying his exact ideal movements. And we see that Kaiser is even able to hide in the chaos of the field and wait for the perfect moment to appear. And right before he gets to the ball, he's encountered by Bachar, who he quickly stops with just one hand. And when the ball gets close enough, Isagi thinks that he's going to fake out the opponents, but instead of doing a fake out and trapping the ball, he simply shoots the shot in front of everybody, doing something that absolutely no one expected, and Isagi doesn't even know when he shot the ball. At this very moment, Isagi is able to realize that someone like Kaiser, who has this type of skill and God-given talent, surpasses even Isagi's ideal forms. Then we get a little bit of exposition and explanation from Noah, the best striker in the world, saying that right foot kick of his that uses all of his body at once to execute, he's the fastest in the world when it comes to the swing. That's the one thing in which he beats me at. And this explains why Isagi wasn't able to perceive his right foot kick, since it is better than anyone in the world, even Noah's. In raw speed, that is. This is the first instance of pure God-given talent that we see from Kaiser, since something like the Kaiser impact can't be replicated and is just based on your genetics basically. And this leads Isagi to say that the foundation of Germany's hyper-rationality are not the players around Kaiser, but it's Kaiser and his abilities themselves. And that if all goals on our team were scored by the Kaiser impact, an absolute rationality without any inefficiency would be created in the team. A perfect unparalleled method of turning a 0 into a 1. Showing that Kaiser is the true and original striker that someone like Ego is looking for, and is an embodiment of Blue Lock's true ideals of having the world's best qualities. And it's kind of interesting to think about how he would do in the Blue Lock facility and how Ego would use him, since he does literally perfectly replicate his ideals and has probably the most amazing abilities out of the teenagers that we see. And this honestly gets me hyped for the U20 World Cup, since we'll probably get to see Kaiser play at an even higher level than he is now. In this match, we also get an idea of how good Kaiser's vision is, which is of course expanded on later when we get into Metavision. But in this match, we see that Noah and Livigno are having a one-on-one duel, with Kaiser, Bachar, and Isagi being the closest ones to it. This duel doesn't last very long, since Isagi does try to rush in and create a 2-on-1 situation to get the ball from Livigno, but he ends up just creating an opening for Livigno to do a rainbow flick over him and use him as a wall to get past Noah. After this, Kaiser tells him that he messed up big time and that he's too far from their level to be cutting in between them. Isagi responds telling him to shut up and that it's not like he could get in either. But Kaiser says to him that it's not that he couldn't get in, but he didn't, and that him and Bachar were simply waiting for a chance where either of them seemed off rhythm, and that any other timing would just be a nuisance dragging the two of them down, showing that not only are his pure striking abilities better than Isagi's, but also his game IQ and vision. We also see that this is very apparent even to people that are just watching the games, since Kaiser has the highest bid in the Neo-Egoist League, with that being 300 million yen, with the only person in Blue Lock that's come close to this being Baro, who got 100 million yen. Next up is Kaiser in the Manshine City match, which is actually where we see his superior vision explained. We see that since Kaiser is simply a better version of Isagi, Isagi's plan is to basically just super analyze him and to change his own playstyle to match Kaiser's. He says that while Kaiser is moving, he has no wasted movements, and that even though he understands the plays, he's not sure that he can do it himself. And we see that while Kaiser is charging at the defense, he's not even looking for or at the ball at all. And after gaining the ball from Ness's pass, he's faced with about 5 defenders, including the goalie. And when Chigiri says that his shot course is dead, and he just responds saying nice peephole. And I kid you not, even with all of these defenders, none of them could get to the ball in time, and there's about 6 panels of this ball just going straight through the defense. Now in this instance, if you actually look closely, we see that Kaiser actually has cat scratch kind of eyes, which if you've been keeping up with Block recently, is also what Baro has whenever he uses Predator Vision. With Predator Vision being an ability where you focus all your vision on one specific person and wait for them to make a wrong move and turn them into your prey. Now keep in mind this is just a theory, we don't really know if Kaiser actually does have Predator Vision, but if he does it's pretty insane considering he has Metavision too, which I'll get into right now. Anyways, going back to the Manshine City game, we see that Isagi is saying that Kaiser's unique and extraordinary weapon isn't something that he could acquire even if he tried his entire life, and what he really needs to focus on is his process and how Kaiser can find and reach a shot course faster than anyone else, and that the answer without a doubt lies within his eyes. He goes on to explain that Kaiser is using his peripheral vision almost constantly to give himself an endless stream of information, allowing him to know who is doing what, when, and where, and allowing him to get to the optimal point that nobody else has even grasped yet. And even compared to someone like Isagi's vision, who arguably at this time had top 3 visions out of all the Block players, it was like Kaiser had a godlike view that transcends 2 and 3 dimensional thought patterns, giving him a 4th dimensional metavision. And with the metavision and Kaiser impact combo, this makes an effective way to turn a 0 into a 1. Now while this video is mostly hyping up Kaiser, I want to give my opinion on something that people have been talking about for a while to really hype him up to levels that he shouldn't really be compared to. This comes from later on in the Manshine City match where he's matched up against Chris Prince, and a lot of people use this duel to say that Kaiser is kind of on the same level as Chris Prince, or at least around his level physically, and I'd like to say that this is simply not true at all. I mean, we even see that Isagi says that Chris Prince is easily able to keep up with Kaiser's movements, and while his body is pushing up against Kaiser, it makes Kaiser audibly grunt, all while Chris Prince is just calling him pathetic. So Kaiser is definitely physically not on the level of Chris Prince, and this is by no means a bad thing. I mean, Chris Prince is compared to some of the best in the world, and is even said to be a rival to Noah himself. But moving on to the Germany vs Ubers game, Kaiser is of course coordinating with the Germany team once again to get past the defensive line, and he would have been successful if out of nowhere, a completely new defender wouldn't have come in. This defender was able to easily pinpoint the ball with flawless precision, and take the ball before Kaiser could get it. And this defender is of course Don Lorenzo, the Ace Eater, and another player with the title of New Generation 11, just like Kaiser. And even though Isagi wasn't able to read Kaiser's surprise attack on the team, Lorenzo was able to see through it in an instant and stop it right away. And this is when we find out the defensive power of Don Lorenzo, and he's actually the world's best U20 center back. Now in this match we don't actually get to see too much of Kaiser, since the best defender in the U20 world, Don Lorenzo, was specifically targeting him because of his high value. But we see that when Isagi's in a pinch with Aiku, who can see through Isagi's movements with his own metavision, he's forced to pass the ball to Yukimiya, which makes Lorenzo have to go defend him. But as soon as he takes his eyes off of Kaiser, Kaiser comes out of nowhere and says he's been waiting for this moment, with Isagi saying that using all of his thinking, Kaiser still outwitted him and transcended all of them in order to get his own goal. And this statement really can be taken 2 ways. Number 1 is that Kaiser was holding back in the matches previously, and number 2 is that Kaiser entered a semi-flow state at this moment. And to be honest, both of them have some reason behind them, so I'll give the explanation for both of them, and you can decide on your own what you believe. Now for number 1, Kaiser would have to be holding back since before in the Manshine City match, him and Isagi were perfectly matched in vision, so much so that they would even get to the same places at the same time, just on accident. And there's also the fact that when Isagi gained Metavision, Kaiser literally says, "Welcome to my world," implying that he's gained vision on the level of Kaiser. But the flow state thing kind of also makes sense, since when he's explaining to Ness that anything is possible for him, he has this dark aura or pigmentation around his eyes, which can be used to imply metavision, but isn't always, and is sometimes used just to show that someone's ego is really flaring up. But I guess there also is the idea that Kaiser has been training his vision and stuff, which kind of does make sense, but I would be very interested to see what kind of training he's been doing to get a whole level above what he's been doing before with Isagi. And either way it goes, it is very interesting for him. Anyways, moving on, he does a fake shot in order to get past the defensive line once more, and his course is cut off by Ryu and Aiku. And Ryu actually fouls him, but instead of stopping, he simply flips over Ryu and takes an upside down shot, shooting the ball with the Kaiser impact so that it's so fast that the defenders can't react, and making it bounce off the ground straight into the goal, making Kaiser the game changer. This is another time where people think Kaiser used Predator Vision in this goal, and honestly I do think it makes sense. The only downside to Kaiser's character and skills is that it seems like he can't really enter the flow state, or at least he hasn't been able to yet, and this would make sense because of the theory of his fragile ego. There's of course a theory that the chains and stuff that are on the Block players represent their egos, with Ness being covered in Kaiser's flowers and Seitoshi's being broken. And Kaiser's is of course see-through and looks like glassy, so people think it represents glass and represents a shallow ego. But that's all I have for today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel, and also consider joining my membership to get early access to videos, and also join the members only Discord. But yeah, goodbye.